All right, good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, go ahead and hit that like button when you come into the live stream. By hitting that like button, the YouTube algorithm will pick up the video, spread it around for more people to join in. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the video I put out last night. And it's referring to a Lisa Cook speech. And I was describing a particular sentence that she had used within this speech. And a lot of people had contacted me saying, dude, what you were describing was an improper definition of a particular phrase or words that were used inside of this sentence. And that I was giving it an inappropriate or inaccurate meaning. And therefore, the argument that I was using for the video is inaccurate as well. And therefore, my ignorance is kind of showing through. They didn't use ignorance in it. I used that word. But essentially, that's what it was, is that they were saying when you describe this particular sentence and you got to a part of the sentence that you were describing as a particular meaning behind it, that meaning is inaccurate. And now the sentence goes like this, right? This is coming from Lisa Cook, who is a voting member of the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee. She is a person who does vote on monetary policy. Now, anybody who's been following me on my channel for any length of time has known that I have talked quite a bit about the monetary policy that the Federal Reserve is conducting is not the one that everybody seems to think is going on. Right? Like a lot of people think that they're going for this 2% target. They're not. They're going for flexible, or they're going for average inflation targeting over time. And we've gone over this quite a bit. Now, I left a link and in the comments section, I pinned a comment with a link talking about the flexible average inflation targeting. They use the word FAIT, F-A-I-T. That's like, they don't necessarily say fate. They might, I don't know, but F-A-I-T is commonly used within the Federal Reserve statements, FAIT, flexible average inflation targeting. If you go and you start researching flexible average inflation targeting, you're going to find many, many references to this particular word, right? FAIT, this acronym. Now, in the sentence, she says, returning inflation sustainably to our 2% target is ongoing process and not a fait accompli. Now, the way I described that was that this fait, F-A-I-T, accompli, was an unaccomplished or an accomplished flexible average inflation targeting accomplishment, meaning that the process is not a flexible average inflation targeting accomplishment, meaning that they're not going for this, right? This is not the idea behind it. People said that I got that wrong, that this fait accompli is French for essentially meaning an accomplished fact, right? Now, I thought about that for just a second, and that's probably very accurate in the way she used it, but I don't believe that's the meaning behind it. I believe the meaning behind it was very much how I was describing it within the video that I put out last night, that this is referring to flexible average inflation targeting. But even if I'm wrong, okay, even if I'm wrong about that, and the meaning is what a lot of people are telling me it truly is meaning that it's an accomplished fact, it's still accurate. My description of that particular sentence is still accurate, right? Regardless of whether I got that part wrong or not. See, if somebody says, hey, describe what's going on with this sentence when she uses this sentence, and my answer to that would be, they're going for a 2% average inflation rate over time, and that the 2% target isn't the actual goal, right? Now, I could say it like that. There's many ways that I could come out and describe that particular sentence in the way that, you know, we refer to that 2% average inflation rate over time, right? So even if I was to answer the question the way I feel that the sentence is really trying to have the meaning behind it, or the meaning that somebody else is saying that it has, the answer that I had for it is exactly the same. Like, the answer is not wrong. It's right. So this is really where I start to question whether or not we are giving the appropriate meaning behind the words themselves. As people told me, dude, your ignorance is flying through with this. Like, you are not describing these particular words in the meaning that they are really intended for, right? They're telling me that. But then I look at the answer that I gave to this particular sentence. You know, if somebody was to say, hey, describe this, I find that answer to be incredibly accurate. Either way, whether you describe it in the way that I think or you give it the meaning that they are intending. Either way, my answer is still accurate on there. and that the Federal Reserve is not going for a 2% target. And she says it is an ongoing process. 2% is an ongoing process and not an accomplished fact. Meaning that if they even get to 2%, it's still an ongoing process because they're going for a flexible average inflation rate over time. At flexible average inflation targeting. And I left a link for it right there in the comment section, pinned in the comment section for you. So again, like I have to question, it was just like, so if I have the correct answer either way, right? It doesn't matter how you ask the question, I have the right answer. See, even if I misunderstand the question, it doesn't matter. The answer is still right. Either way. Which leads me to believe, how many times are we looking at these statements and giving it an inappropriate meaning behind it? If I could answer the question appropriately or accurately, regardless of the meaning that I had put behind the question, I got the answer still right. And that's really where I think like a lot of people should look at a lot of times when they see the statements or they give it, the meaning that behind the words that they are using, are they giving it the appropriate meaning? Like she could very well be, using it in the sense that, would be, accurate to grammar, right? This fait accompli. But either way, it still is accurate to the description of the sentence and what I answered, what I describe it. All right. Anyway, this is all part of their game. This is the whole point of it. Like that, I guess I should get to the point, right? The whole point of this is the words that they are using and how it is that we receive these words and the meanings that we give behind it, right? So as a lot of people might misunderstand where it is that the Federal Reserve is going with their monetary policy, especially when it comes to the idea of trying to achieve a 2% inflation rate, is that 2% inflation rate even part of their policy or their plan? And if they come right out and tell you, no, we're going for a 2%, moderately above 2% for some time, and they come straight out to the public and say that, and that they're not going for a 2% target, people would lose their minds. So they have to communicate this out there to the rest of the central bankers in a way that keeps the rest of the people confused, but that they can accurately see what it is that they're trying to describe. And again, regardless of how I interpret this particular sentence, the answer is still the same. All right, the answer is still accurate and it's still right. All right. What you guys up to today? Okay, I doubt I make it. Okay, I doubt I make it today, but I hope everyone learns a lot. Cheers, people. Yeah. All right, I'm so excited. Get saved. First time going live. Right on. Hey, smash that like button, please. Is he uneducated economist? He's bound to make mistakes or two. Well, and that's just the thing, guys. Like, I barely graduated high school. Like, and to be honest, I cheated my way through high school, right? So, I mean, some of the tests, some of the things that I needed to do in order to get my diploma, hey, I had to figure it out, right? Nobody's ever asked to see my diploma, ever. Not one person after I got it did anybody ever ask to look at it. Like, I don't know what good a high school diploma was. I didn't use it for anything, like other than maybe just going to school and getting whatever little education I got from them. So, yeah, as far as an uneducated person goes, yeah, that's me, right? I mean, you can tell by the, talking incomplete sentences and, I make up my own words and all kinds of stuff. But it doesn't matter, right? Regardless if I get this part, if I can, here's the thing. When it comes to understanding monetary policy, it doesn't really matter how well I can speak, right? It doesn't matter all the fancy words in the world. That doesn't make any difference, right? Understanding the monetary policy and the strategy behind it is so much deeper than just being able to just, pronounce particular words or understand the meaning behind a particular word, right? Because a lot of times those words that they're giving meaning behind, they are not what it is that you think it is, right? It's a different meaning that they are using. And you have to understand it from their point of view, from what they are trying to pursue, right? And understanding that then makes it easy. Like I could answer, like it doesn't matter how you ask me the question, right? You can ask me the question in the most confusing way, as long as I understand what it is that they're going for, like what are they trying to describe here, I can answer it. Like I can understand what it is that is being done within the monetary policy to know what it is that they are going for. And that's where it's just like, yeah, I might have screwed that up. I didn't get that part right, but it totally fits in with not only the theories that I have, describing it the way I did, which I think is very accurate to what it is that Lisa Cook was trying to describe. And again, even if I was to go off of the correctness of the grammar of it, it would still be accurate to my response to it. All right, let's cruise down here and talk about something. Brian, there's a link in the description. There is. Can you explain how to upgrade the membership? Yeah. I mean, the upgraded membership at this point is, I do have like a UE collective that at some point I would like to start pursuing. I'm not sure exactly what it is that the UE collective would be. It's a $50 membership. I just kind of set it up because it was there, and I'm like, well, the early bird was really what I was going for. But the UE collective, I don't know what that would be. I mean, something where we talk about how it is that we make money or something. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what to do with the UE collective part. All right, Julio, $9.99. Thank you so much. Hey, I want to get my home inspector's license for a side gig. What data should I look to determine whether the market will be helpful to new license? Thank you. Great video. Oh, I appreciate this. Okay, so as far as a home inspector goes, like, I mean, I'm guessing you're like thinking about like an existing home that somebody goes and inspects before somebody makes the purchase of the home, like, or are you talking like building inspecting to make sure like, the building is up to code? I guess there's a couple of different, home inspectors there. I would assume that you're probably talking about like going and inspecting the home for damage or, inconsistencies that need to be dealt with or something like that. I would assume that's probably what you're into. That right there, I would probably be a little leery of. I mean, at least for a while. I mean, I don't see the housing market whipping around anytime soon or getting very, like stimulated to the point that, there's going to be a lot of call for home inspections to be done. A buddy of mine does that for a living. He's saying that it's very slow comparatively to what he was experiencing a couple of years ago. Now, when I think about stuff like that, honestly, if you are starting off in a time in which that it is very difficult to operate and you're able to make it, then you're going to do quite well during the good times, right? So again, like, if it's slow and you're starting to set up a business and you're trying to do it in the middle of a recession or something of that nature where it's just absolutely difficult, if you can grind and make it happen in that kind of environment, then think about how awesome it's going to be when you're in an expansion, an expanding economy, when things are doing quite well. So, I mean, I don't think that like there's going to be a big turning over of homes and a big demand for that type of work, if you're asking me that. But that's, I mean, give it 6 months, things might start to turn around, and then they might be in a position in which that's going to be a growing environment, which would be good to be in, UE, you are doing a great job. Keep it up. Well, thank you, Fast Sports. I really appreciate it. But Simon, since other countries like Canada cut rates, won't the U.S. follow soon? I mean, they might, but I don't believe that it's going to have anything to do with these other nations in what it is that they are doing. I mean, it seems to me that... Oh, my computer's dying. We don't need that anymore anyway. It seems to me that when interest rates get cut, it's always the United States that does it last. Like, they're the last ones to the game. And, really, when you think about it, like, all the rest of the nations out there are trying to increase their economic activity. And what's happening when they lower interest rates is they're weakening their currency to the United States, to the US dollar, which ends up causing their exports to become more prevalent to the United States, right? We start importing more stuff. Because the dollar is stronger, we can import more things. We start, getting stuff cheaper from those nations. So this is what they're attempting to do, is trying to increase their exports by weakening their currency to the dollar. Now, I don't know how many times I've said it, but I've said it a lot, that you're going to see the dollar strengthen to a level unlike anybody was ever imagining. And this is one of the examples of how that can occur. is by simply the United States just sitting still, not doing anything at all. And the rest of the nations start weakening their currency to the dollar, causing the dollar to strengthen all on its own without the United States doing anything. All right? Like, we're like not changing anything about what we're doing, but yet here our dollar gets stronger because of the way the other nations are acting. And as much as we say, oh, we hate that, we don't like that at all, it screws us up, right? You know, because what else are you going to say if you're in administration when your jobs are getting exported out because the manufacturing is cheaper in another nation? What else are you going to say, right? You're not going to say, hey, you know, but you get good cheap stuff, you know? I mean, nobody's going to, like, you know, settle for that. Is it better to rob and steal? Just don't get caught. All right. Take business cards around to real estate agents. Yeah, that's actually a good way to get started. There's still big money that doesn't care about inspections. All right, what did I miss? What'd you get right? Oh, the description of the Lisa Cook speech where I was talking about how the flexible average inflation targeting was misunderstood as far as accomplished fact. All right, was reading speeches from 2004 inflation ticked up in early '04 and they raised gradually for 3 years. I now think they knew about the home bubble beforehand. They can upstart inflation whenever. I believe very much so that they knew that that housing bubble was going to go. Like, they were like, how they responded so quickly is how you know. Like, they're like, oh crap, well, we have assessed the situation in 20 minutes and now we know what to do. Right? No, it's like, it doesn't work like that. Like, they had planned it out for a long time ahead, or else they wouldn't have been able to deploy some of the things that they did, nor even talk about it, you know, years earlier, like in 2002. So it's like, to be able to describe what it is that you would do during a time in which that a deflationary scenario was running rampant through the economy, and you talk about asset purchases and loading up the balance sheet, and that's what they do, quantitative easing, right after the great financial crisis. It was well planned out. It was not a surprise. Ben Bernanke came out to the public saying that we got it confined or it's isolated to the subprime mortgages was not truth, right? Now, if I remember right, I believe that he actually stated it in a way that gave him a bit of an out, and that they said our data does not indicate that there's and that it's, you know, outside of the isolation of the subprime mortgages. And now I find that very funny, right? It was like, so you know what's happening, but because the Federal Reserve doesn't have a data set that they use for conducting monetary policy that shows that exact scenario, you don't get to apply it to your monetary policy. Like, you know it exists, but because it's not actually conditioned into monetary policy data, you know, equation, then you don't get to use it. It's like, that's really what they were saying. It's just like, our data, the stuff that we look at, doesn't include that, so we don't see it, and therefore it doesn't exist. You know, it's kind of ultimately like another way of saying that. All right. Anyone ever read up on the Great Panic, aka the First Great Depression? George Gammon, Brent Johnson interview confirmed all of your thought about the strength of the U.S. dollar. It isn't going anywhere. Buck50 2000, thank you so much. And that's really where, like, it was George Gammon and Brent Johnson and Jeff Snyder. It was those guys, listening to them talk. Like, I mean, sitting like at the Rebel Capitalist, listening to them talk. You know, it's just like, the dollar is not what these people are, like a lot of other people are saying, right? And just kind of hearing what it is that they were describing, and then going and doing it. It didn't even take that much research to really find. Like, you just listen to Brent Johnson or Jeff Snyder for, you know, a month or whatever. You can figure out what it is that they are talking about. Go and do a little bit of a research yourself, and you're like, dang, this is way different than what a lot of other people are saying. Okay? So I appreciate that. Thank you for bringing that up. You make 30 bucks, but you could get $1 million home. Let's see here. No, see. Oh, let's see. Was the A-Team a better TV show than MacGyver? Oh, man. That's tough. That's a tough one. I liked MacGyver. I think I liked MacGyver. I think I was a little bit more entertained by the TV show MacGyver, but I think the A-Team was way cooler. Way cooler. Yeah. The U.S. cannot be forced to default. MacGyver is king. Yeah. Money printer go burr. It's actually going suck right now. Money printer go broke. There you go. All right. Let's see here. Believe what you want, AG, but that's nonsense. What are we talking about? All right. MacGyver didn't need a team. He rolled alone. Yeah. Hey, when you are going through a tough time in life, what mental strategies do you use to bounce out of it? Kevin? That's a great question, man. Here, let's get a little personal with stuff. Here you go. Any situation that you are facing, even if it's a really ugly one that's really bad, like, some people have told me about some of the ways that they have grown up, and it's atrocious. Like, I think about, like, some of the, like, what I feel are traumatic experiences in my life, and they don't even come close to what some other people have experienced in their life. Point is, that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter how somebody else went through something comparatively to what you are going through. You can't compare to somebody else's issues, right? Now you can say, hey, my life ain't that bad, it's pretty good, look at what those people are going through. That's comparing, and that's like trying to say, hey, I don't have it as bad, it could be worse or something of that nature. All that is garbage, right? That is probably one of the worst ways of ever dealing with anything that's going on in your life, is to think about how much better you have it than you could have. Like, be grateful or something of that nature. Like, a lot of people say that, be grateful for what you have. I get that. And there's some, and I do get, like, there is some helpfulness to that idea, but it's not a matter of being grateful. It's a matter of understanding that there is no given meaning to anything other than the one you are giving it. There is no hidden meaning to anything, right? There's absolutely none. The only meaning anything has in existence, from watching this video to the job that you go to the experiences that you have with your relationships or whatever it is out there, it's literally all about just the meaning that you are giving it, because somebody else might give it different meaning. Somebody else might look at it and say, like, give it something that's like, look at it and just give it a totally different, like, especially like when somebody, like, say, goes through a divorce, right? And you ask them, hey, what happened? How come you guys aren't together anymore, or whatever? And all this, and the guy says one thing and she goes, oh, this, right? They have two different meanings, right? They looked at it and just, like, and just describe it in completely different ways. So here's the point by it, right? Is that no matter what it is that you are experiencing, there is nothing that is any different than the moment that it is, right? Like, it is just it. It's like, I can't change anything around that I'm experiencing except for the meaning that I'm giving the experience that I'm having. Now, I could give it meaning. This sucks. This is horrible. All these people coming after me. Or I could look at it and say, man, this has been hit pretty hard. I'm going to have to figure out some other ways to get around it. Or, hey, this is no longer acceptable to me. This has all come to an end. It's crashed. It's faded. Whatever. I need to step off and move into other things. Whatever meaning that you happen to give it, it doesn't change the way the situation is. The situation is just what it is. There is no difference in it. And the only thing that gives it the meaning that it is you. Right? Somebody might give it something that is just like, this is a tragic event that has happened to me, and all the, piss on all these people who did this. And other people are like, man, this is not acceptable in my life, and I guess I just have to walk away from it all. Whatever meaning that you give it, right? Somebody gets fired from their job. This is like, man, those people, and they did this, and they put me in a situation, in toxic environment, and blah, blah, blah. And somebody else might look at it and it's just like, whew, finally, I'm relieved to go off and pursue something else in life. And that's it. That was the meaning they gave it. Nothing else. They didn't think about anybody there or reasons or anything else. They were like, I've been freed. Now I'm off to go do something else. And that's the meaning that they gave it. So when you're going through a tough time in life, it's literally because of the meaning that you give it. And I know the first thing people are saying, yeah, but I got all these tragic things that happened to me. Get it, right? Like, I mean, it's probably, you might have experienced something that's 1,000 times worse than everything I've ever experienced combined, but it's still, what are you going to do with it, right? Are you going to say, hey, man, I'm going to suffer the consequences from my life, or I'm going to take the experiences that I have from life and try and pursue something else with it? It's all, again, however you're going to look at it. All right, boom. What time is it? Okay, I still got some time here, guys. Right on. All right. We're 25 minutes into this. Okay. Complicated stuff. Simon, I'm not sure if the masses find you, if they'll even understand Fed ops enough for it to matter. No, they won't. And that's the point. And that's one of the reasons why I keep reiterating the stuff over and over again, because if you were brand new to this information, it is so overwhelming. It is so much. And not to mention, it's so overwhelming and so much to learn. But then you also have to deprogram all the stuff that you already know. And that's the problem, is because all the stuff that we have been taught from the time that we were little kids, listening to our parents, watching, the politicians on TV, doing all this stuff, has conditioned our mind into a position in which that it makes it very complicated and very difficult to disassociate from all that learning that you have had to then take in new knowledge, right? You almost have to unlearn what it is that you have learned so that you can relearn what it is that is being spoken through this monetary policy, because it's so unlike anything that anybody describes. Like, I can't find anybody who describes monetary policy the way I do. Like, I would love to like find some articles and anybody else who is confirming this stuff in the way that I have been describing it, and I can't find anybody out there, which makes it very, very unique. I mean, I'm sure there's other people out there who are breaking this stuff down this way, but, where are they? Like, they're not in the news, all right? They don't seem to be out there on YouTube too much. I mean, occasionally I hear somebody talk about average inflation targeting, but then they usually don't describe it very well and go right back to the belief of a 2% target. It's I don't know. Like, I don't know how else to do it other than what I'm doing here, All right. If you're under 40, learn this fast. Hey, dishes, everyone, hit that like button. Yeah, thank you, Mama. All right, Volkswagen van life. I want to know what this info does in your life. How about your house? Equity upside down. Okay, home value gone up. Where are you in your vehicles? Paid for payments. How is your finances? Okay, well, let me give you a basic idea. A few years ago, I was broke as hell, didn't have any money, and I'm talking like maybe 5 years ago, right? Maybe pushing 6, right? So 5-6 years ago, had no money, in debt, credit cards, all the other stuff. I have since then, I have a little bit of credit card debt right now because it doesn't matter. Paying that off, I could pay it off right now with my savings, but I don't want to, take it out of savings. So I'm willing to make a few credit card payments for the next couple of months to get this thing done. So I do have a little bit of credit card debt, but not much. The house has massive amounts of equity in it. I put 10% down on the house, and then it did nothing but go up since I purchased it. So I have a ton of equity going on in the house, like well over, probably about $120,000 or something in equity, right? So quite a bit going on inside of that. My stock portfolio is fairly small. I got maybe a little less than $10,000 in a stock portfolio, but that's doing okay. I almost have half a Bitcoin. Somebody had sent me a lot of Bitcoin a long time ago, and I've been adding to it ever since then, or even before that. So, I'm doing okay on that kind of things. As far as understanding the knowledge and what it is that you're doing, it's all intuitive. Like, you don't realize that you're even making the correct decisions for yourself, because this stuff all of a sudden becomes a subconscious understanding when you're just pursuing your life. Like, you're not going to think about, like, okay, what is the flexible average inflation targeting really going to mean for my decisions on buying this house? You don't look at it that way. You just look at it much different. And you just look at it saying, okay, well, yeah, I see the monetary policy had eased last year, which actually created a situation that started having more stimulus into the housing market due to the perception that the markets had about the cutting of interest rates going into the future, and understanding that this is really what was stimulating the economy, and everybody's wondering how come it's so resilient and how come the inflation is still running so persistent, knowing how the Federal Reserve is looking for monetary policy that is moderately above 2% for some time. Like, all these things I now look at in a much different fashion than what most people out there in the economy are talking about, like especially when it comes to economists. How many people talk about and roll decisions around and have these in-depth conversations about the cutting of interest rates? How many people out there are describing how cutting of interest rates makes very little impact on the economy? How many people are describing how it's more about their words and what it is that the people feel about those words going into the future that has more of an impact on the economy? How many people describe that stuff? Nobody. Everybody's stuck on 2% target, and when are they going to cut? It's like, neither one of those things matter. You know, I mean, they matter. I shouldn't say they don't matter. They don't matter nearly as much as the communications do. And now understanding the communications is so important. Very much like that sentence in that speech that Lisa Cook gave. Like, either way, if you take it the way that I truly believe that she was intending on meaning it with the flexible average inflation targeting, or you take it for the literal sense in which it was used, either way, I'm still right, right? And so, and that's because of my understanding of monetary policy. It doesn't matter how you ask me the question. I already have the right answer to it, right? I mean, that's the way it goes. That's it. And so I do question how it is that people look at these words that are being used. Are they giving them the meaning in which that the Federal Reserve has intended? Because a lot of times people will just look at it and go, I know what those words mean. I know what the words mean. I can defend give the definitions of those things, but then they don't understand the meaning behind it that the Federal Reserve is trying to intend. All right, what time is it? 12:12. Okay, guys, I'm getting close to the end here. All right, let me cruise down here a little way. All right, Crimson Brody said that I'm saying we're in an inflationary environment. I'm saying we are in deflationary. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say deflationary, but I would say disinflationary, right? And I mean, there is certain things that you can look at that would be deflationary for the most part, like lumber. Lumber's in a deflationary cycle, seems to be. It keeps dropping every day, a little bit more. So I imagine there's probably some things in the economy that you could see that would be deflationary, but I think that it would be more disinflationary. Like, it's still inflationary, just not at the same pace it was. And that's really what the Federal Reserve was looking for, was a disinflationary environment to bring it down to moderately above 2% for some time. Totally achieving the goals. Alright, I don't care what anybody says. He's not cutting interest rates, not if he knows what's good for the nation. Who's he? A.G. Brody is correct. You are incorrect. Wow, what are you guys talking? Okay. I just bought a Tai Lopes course. I'm going to be really, really rich. Okay. I almost always miss the streams while they're up. Well, I'm glad you're here. How can we be in deflationary cycle with positive inflation? That's what I was saying. Like, I don't think it's necessarily deflation as much as it is disinflationary. Jerome Powell, bro. Oh, Jerome Powell doesn't make decisions. Like, he makes a decision on his own vote, and then he speaks on behalf of the FOMC. So Jerome Powell doesn't really have any kind of real power. He doesn't make any real decisions on his own other than his one vote that he has. There's 11 other members to the FOMC who also vote on monetary policy. So yeah, we can listen to the messenger and then say and blame it on him, but that's inaccurate. That's in fact, I don't even consider Jerome Powell as any kind of real power at all. And I find it very irritating a lot of times when we find like presidents like Donald Trump wanting to fire Jerome Powell. See, that right there, he knows, Donald Trump knows that by firing Jerome Powell, it wouldn't change anything, right? You got to change the other 11 members of the FOMC. You can change one vote. You can get one vote to change, maybe, possibly, could be, who knows, right? But that's it. And so by putting out this energy of, I gotta fire Jerome Powell, he should be, I can't believe he's doing this, he should be, Jerome, focus your energy and everything and your attention on that dude. That doesn't change anything about anything. Why in the world would he do that? Unless he's trying to grab your attention and focus it away from the reality of the situation. See, that's why I'm so annoyed with Donald Trump. That's why I don't trust him at all. Because I understand that the FOMC has 12 voting members, right? 5 alternates, 2 advisors. There is a few members to this FOMC that is beyond the one person of Jerome Powell who does not make ultimate decisions. But yet, if you have an administration, a president coming out and grabbing this attention, talking about how he's going to fire Jerome Powell and all about it, and I'm thinking, well, what difference would that make, bro? Like, you got all these people's attention, all fired up, all these people all mad at Jerome Powell, and if you replaced him, it wouldn't make a bit of difference. All right. Well, yeah, go ahead and keep, getting those masses' attentions with your fancy yelling, screaming techniques and all the other crap that you're doing. Like, I don't trust it. I just don't trust it at all. Like, to me, it was like comical. I laugh so hard over it. That's why I make fun of it all the time. There's no inflation. The Fed should be printing money. It's just like, oh, what a disgusting thing. All right. But yeah, people were like, oh no, man, he can really fix this stuff. Like, he ain't fixing anything. Right? He's all in cahoots with the Fed, just like all the rest of them. All right, it doesn't matter how they vote, they follow the bond market. Unemployment rates are almost quite literally all-time low. Simon has talked about dissemination of U.S. manufacturing. Straight up. Now talk about Fuji. I don't know. No. All right. Again, you are misinterpreting the data as the media would have you do. Inflation is still 0.2.8%, which is still inflationary. Deflation is rare and has only occurred 4 times in history. Yeah, and it's like the deflationary scenario is far more scary to the Federal Reserve. Like, they shake in their boots with the idea of deflation because it is very difficult to stop once it starts. All right. Once people get into that position of hoarding the money and not participating within it, it is a cycle that starts to really spin out of control. And it's hard for a lot of people to see that because they have done so much effort in attempt to try and create inflationary scenarios and then put out the perception of there. Like, how many people just think that way? Like, I mean, nobody thinks of deflation, right? Nobody thinks about how the Federal Reserve was suffering a problem with the deflationary scenario or the lack of inflation. Remember, this is monetary policy. Look, I'll show you right here. Monetary policy strategies for a low neutral interest rate world. This is probably one of the most telling speeches. And in that speech, like, how many times have you heard me say this? Today we face an altogether different set of problems stemming from a very low neutral interest rate. That is, the short-term real interest rate consistent with an economy operating at its potential alongside low and stable inflation. Ironically, the problem we need to solve today is the risk of inflation that is persistently too low rather than too high. Right? That was the problem they needed to face. They much would rather have an inflation expectation that is persistently too high, because that is easier for them to deal with than trying to create an inflationary scenario than when they have the Fed funds rate at the lower bound of zero and a neutral interest rate that is also close to zero. They have literally ran out of monetary policy. They are not functioning. They might as well turn off the lights and go home. However, they figured that out. Expansion of the balance sheet, incredible threats. Credible threats guide the market more than the actual adjustment of interest rates. It is so easy to see. We're going to learn more about that in tonight's speech. If you want to learn more about how it is that credible threats guide the market, we'll then come back to this channel probably about 6 o'clock. I'm going to set that up for 6 o'clock this evening, West Coast time, members only live stream, where we're going to break down Michelle Bowman, who is a voting member of the FOMC and incredibly influential. We're going to break down a speech that she had given on monetary policy just a couple of days ago, I believe day before yesterday. All right? So it's incredibly updated, accurate information, and in that speech, she acknowledges the easing of monetary policy at the end of last year. The Fed had done nothing. They did not change the Fed funds rate. They did not change the balance sheet. But yet she acknowledges the easing of monetary policy at the end of last year. When did that happen? Well, I did a video making that suggestion. What if the Fed had already eased? See, they did it with their credible threats at the end of last year with the dot plot. Everybody knew that there was going to be a bunch of interest rate cuts coming this year, and they acted accordingly, and it created a stimulating effect to the economy. And she acknowledges that. And there was never anything different from the Federal Reserve. No adjustment to the Fed funds rate, no adjustment to the balance sheet, nothing changed. Right? So we can learn more about that and learn and understanding how that was operating, how it is that I can make a video 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago suggesting that the Federal Reserve had already eased, and then now here's Michelle Bowman acknowledging that exact thing. Like, tell me I don't have this dialed in, right? I mean, it's just like I've gotten to the point now that I feel like I could literally be an advisor to the Federal Reserve on monetary policy from the working class point of view. Like, I just don't feel that they really understand how it is to operate at the lower end, how it is to operate on a day-to-day job. Like, these people are like, well, the painful experiences of the lower income home, whatever households and stuff like that. It was just like the painful experience. Do you have any idea what the painful experience that you're describing even feels like? Like, these people talk about that, and I'm like, have you ever had a day in your life where you didn't have everything that you had ever wanted? I really have to ask these people that. And even if they did, how long ago was that? 30 years ago, 20 years ago? Are they experiencing what we are experiencing today with today's economy and the condition that it is? A 9-to-5 job, barely being able to provide anything except for your life, right? You're not going to get anything good out of it. If you need anything good out of it, you're going to have to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, side hustles, all kinds of stuff. Right? But that regular 9-to-5 good manufacturing job that used to provide for an entire household, raising families and going on vacations and college tuitions and retirements, and that was all done off of one good hardcore manufacturing job, that doesn't exist. Like, it might exist someplace, somewhere for somebody, right? But that's not the common thing. That's not the generally speaking, environment for most Americans. Now we understand it. We understand why. We're breaking it down not to give excuses or blame, right? But give reason. Studying the 4 economic theories, understanding monetary policy from the Fed's point of view, not from one that says, hey, we screwed up, but from one that they are actually achieving their goals. Understanding it in this fashion then gives us the ability to appropriately make decisions for ourselves, not one off of some fear-mongering, video out there or some economist out there who is misguiding you into believing that they're going for this 2% target and there's going to be 5 interest rate cuts. Those people are not giving you good information. The only way you're going to get this good information is to interpret it yourself. That's why I leave links down in the description of almost every single one of these videos. That's why I leave the pinned comment to the flexible average inflation targeting that nobody even knows exists, but the Federal Reserve talks about it plenty. Yeah. This is how we do it, guys. This is how we break this stuff down. And I hope everybody joins the live stream tonight. It's $1 a month to be a member of the channel. You'll get, oh, here's the question. Okay, I got to answer this question, and then I got to go back to work. But I'm going to leave a link down in the description for you guys, and then I'll set up that live stream for 6 o'clock tonight, and we'll break down Michelle Bowman's speech. Question, when you request a loan to the bank, will the bank ask the money to the Fed if the bank does not have it? Well, essentially, yes. They're all going to eventually go to the Federal Reserve to get money. Like, they all go to the same place. And it's through regional banks, right? So you have one bank that leads up to the other ones. So the Federal Reserve is the ultimate provider of it all. So if you want to really think about it, it's like a bank doesn't really need anything at all to operate. Like, they can give out a loan. Once they have the loan itself, they can sell that loan off to somebody else. They just need basically enough money to provide for the creation of the loan itself before they sell it off to somebody who might put it into, a collateralized debt obligation kind of thing or something. So really, like, a bank could probably operate just simply off of the idea that they have a customer who has a loan, like you have a loan in mind for them. I would imagine that there's probably even a way to facilitate it even through the private money sector or whatever, to get that money out there before the loan is even created, right? So hey, we have this available to us. So as soon as you sign that document, boom, here we go. We can sell it all off, and it all happens like instantaneously almost. I don't know if I described that right, but Anyway, moving on. Gotta go, guys. What time is it? Yeah, I gotta go back to work. I really appreciate you all being here. We got 270 people with 144 likes. Thank you very much for that $10 super chat. You guys, if you want to break this stuff down, go and read the speeches, internalize that information for yourself, be able to describe monetary policy in the fashion that the FOMC does, and you will be making decisions intuitively correct for your own position and what it is that you have going on in your life. Come back for these member-only live streams. If you have questions, the comment section is full of super intelligent people who love to give their opinions about what it is that's happening out there. I will go through and read all the comments if I can. I try to read all of them. It's a great time. So it takes about maybe an hour and a half to get through these speeches. So you do have to kind of sit around, get your snacks, get your drinks, and, be ready for it. So. All right. See you guys. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.